Welcome to another question and answer here at Upholstery on Broadway or Broadway Upholstery School. And I'm excited because we had a busy week here on our online classes and also on the custom work, excuse me. And I wanted to relate a couple of stories that happened today, which were kind of fun. And by the way, just jump in there with your questions. We're waiting for them. Michaela's at her post, and we're ready for the questions. Anything you want, upholstery related, that is. If you have any questions about the blog, too, we posted some really cool stories. All true stories, I swear. The Napoleon story, the salty love seat story, the chairs with hair stories. Who would ever thought, right? And I think I related a story the other day, which will be coming on the blog, about a haunted restaurant that I did upholstery work in. That was kind of fun. But what happened today, I've been working with the client here and locally, and she's only shown me pictures of a huge sofa that she has, a very old, very elaborate sofa that she says weighs a ton, and it was brought in over the second floor porch, and it was done by professional movers, and she needs to get somebody to move this, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, she's being nice. She's not asking me to do it. Excuse me. So today she was in going on about it at all. I said, wow, you're making this sound like it's really difficult. She said, it is, and I don't know if you can do it. So I'm having visions of, this sofa falling on me, and my ruby slippers are the only thing anybody sees from underneath. So I was joking with the client. I said, the only problem with that is I take a 13 Triple E. I don't think they have ruby slippers that size. So we had a good laugh. Actually, it brings up a good point about getting a rapport with your client and being in a cheerful mood. And, just to put this client at ease, this is a huge project. It needs some work, this piece, too. So I'm actually looking forward to working on it. And I know I can get it out of her house. That's not a problem. We'll figure something out. And in the very end, the very last resort, I can upholster something inside of a house, but prefer not to do that because you can never take all your tools, everything that you have in the shop. One thing about this particular sofa is that she's local, so she's right around the corner, so that helps. So I'm going to weigh that. We're going to be going over there to see that next week, and I'll let you guys know what happened with that. Another exciting thing that happened today, I got a call about a month ago from a young lady, and it was a very unusual call in that she wasn't offering much information about the job, and it was a small job. So this is just another point, you guys. If you're going into business, take the small jobs because you never know where it could lead. So she calls and she says a button popped from a sofa in downtown Boston. So I take the call initially, and I'm thinking to myself, do I want to go downtown Boston for a pop button? I mean, automatically it just screams that you're not going to make any money. It's travel time and everything. So I said to her, well, I can go down there Saturday. If you can meet me on a Saturday morning early, you beat the traffic and go in there, I'll do it. There was something about this job that I said, I think I should take it. There was something about it that sounded interesting. Just the intrigue alone. I mean, she wouldn't offer any other details about this sofa. And it was in a location, a commercial area near Fenway Park. So I was thinking to myself, what could this possibly be? So I went down there this morning, and I go in. It's a big warehouse with all these crates. They look like theater crates. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these, how they pack a whole show up. They use these huge crates and these huge trunks, and that's what I saw all around. I'm thinking to myself, oh, it must be some type of show. So she takes me into a maze of it looked like a maze, just black, fabric and nothing. It looked like all this. It was an art display about to go in. So I get into the interior, and guess what's in there, you guys? It was the sofa, that iconic sofa that you see on the set of Friends. It was the actual sofa. And there was a button popped, and I was called into, they couldn't tell me because there's this show coming into town called, was it a pop-up art? Something like that, Patrick? Pop-up? Something like that. It's a company that it's some type of a display art project that somebody has. Anyhow, so I fixed the button, and hopefully we'll go see this show to see what it's all about. So that's it. That's my day today. That was pretty exciting, wasn't it? So do we have any questions yet, Michaela?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet. So I am going to be working on a very interesting project during this question and answer. I have this seat is sprung, coil springs. I have the burlap over it, and I have the front edge ready to go on. This is a front edge, the fox edging or edge roll that's ready to go on. It has to be stitched onto the wire edge that's underneath here. And you might be surprised at how much stitching has to go into making sure that this stays put onto this wire in the burlap. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. But before I do that, I wanted to catch up on a couple of comments that came in, and also mention that you guys, this week's a big week. We're launching the shop. You're going to be seeing custom videos, meaning if you have a project that you've always wanted to tackle but you've never seen it on YouTube, we can customize that. We can find the same piece of furniture. It might take you, there is a time lag here though, I should warn you, but you can purchase a custom video. We'll make it for you, and from start to finish. And that's exciting. And we also have the footstool kit coming out. We're excited about that, the instructional video and the book. And speaking of the book, we have a comment that says, very excited about the book. Just a comment on how I work under your tutelage. I use more tacks than staples because it's easier to remove the tacks when I mess up. Exactly. I have had to completely strip back down to the frame because I didn't place the webbing in the right part of the frame, and after seeing one of your videos I saw the correct way to build a curved back using webbing instead of cardboard. So what I like about this is Omnipotent Mama. What I like about what she just said is that she's willing to tear something apart and start all over again. I can tell you that that's the sign of somebody that's going to really be a good upholsterer if they're willing to do that. And that's what I like about the kit. I mean, the kit is great. On the instructional video, you're going to see that I've already taken that apart. I upholstered it once, took it apart, and the foam's a little rugged in some areas, but I think it's actually kind of nice that you're seeing a reconstructed one. When you do purchase it, though, all your materials will be brand new. But you could tear this apart a dozen times and redo it again and again until you get really good at it. It's going to be great. I think you're going to like it. But using tacks, definitely, tacks do come out easier than staples. When you think about it, a staple is injecting the staple at 80 to 90 pounds of pressure per square inch. On your hammering, you're trying to match that with the hammering, but I think with all the hammering that you do add up to that much pressure. But taking the tack out has a bigger head, and that's easier. It's easier to flip that out with the proper tools. So I think Mama here is doing a good job. And she goes on to say, staples are too hard to remove, that's for sure. I only reinforce with staples when I'm sure. Exactly. That's my method of teaching. I'm glad that you're paying attention to those YouTube videos. I have a lot of experience teaching beginners for many years. And one thing we don't want to do is frustrate people when they're working. It's the last thing you want to do. So the process is slow, but you'll get better. You'll get faster. So she goes on to say, I only reinforce with staples when I'm sure. I also appreciate your tip on working in muslin to learn the cuts. I did that, and now I have a perfect pattern so I can order an expensive fabric with confidence. It took 5 yards of muslin to learn those cuts. That is a fantastic tip. I think that's what I like about the online classes. I can't stress enough with the online classes. And I know it sounds like I'm pushing them. We do get money, we get $50 for these. Some of them, we just finished one. It was 10 weeks. So I know you're getting really good bargain. You're getting a lot of video, but more importantly, you're getting tips in every one of those classes that saves you time and money if you're doing this even as a hobby. So I think it's well worth it. I'm really proud of what we're doing. We have some great people who have pretty much volunteered. The apprentices have come in, and we've had great fun too. Recently, we had the idea of inviting one of our apprentices on the live question and answer. They're not here today, but next week we're going to have Jimmy on, and we're going to touch upon mainly upholstery, but we're going to also touch upon some, childhood memories and things like that. The reason I'm doing that is I think when you're talking to your clients, like I mentioned before, you need to develop a personality for this salesmanship with concerning upholstery. I'll tell you why. Every piece of furniture that you're going to get has an intimate feeling to it for those people. You're going to go into their homes. They're going to come to your shop. There's definitely has to be a feeling of friendship there. I think that's how I conduct myself in my business. So with Jimmy, he was a student, especially the first time he walked through the door. I think he instantly felt relieved that it wasn't going to be, we're not cracking the whip here. That's not what it's all about. It's more of a friendly place. So I have another comment that came in. Somebody was asking about a chair. They were asking about how many yards of fabric. I think that was a wing chair. This is from Brandy, and she asked how many yards. Actually, that might have been the theater chair that we did. We did a theater chair from the Chinese Theater in Los Angeles, which is no longer there, I'm told. And that chair didn't take a lot. It was a mohair, so it was important not to over-order on that. That was very expensive. Some of that mohair is $500 a yard, if you can believe it. That particular chair, I think, took 1 yard. So imagine, though, if they had to do a whole theater full of that today. Maybe that's why the theater's closed. By the way, I just want a true confessions of an upholsterer today, something that happened to me in a theater just recently. One of the old theaters here in the Boston area. I won't tell you which one. But I will tell you the film. Can we mention film names, Patrick? Can we mention film names? Michaela? Can we mention? Well, it was a popular film. It doesn't matter anyhow. So the film's about to start. The theater's full. I go in and I sit down. The whole chair just collapsed the theater chair just went flat, collapsed on me. I fell into the lady's lap behind me. And the whole theater was very upset, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm laying flat on my back, looking up at the ceiling. Believe it or not, that is not the most embarrassing thing that has happened to me in a movie theater. I had another time when I went, probably a couple of years ago, and the wife went in first, and I think the wife could see in the dark because I couldn't see a thing, and I lost sight of her. I knew the aisle she went down, but it's pitch black. So I'm feeling my way down the aisle, and I put my finger out, and guess where the finger ended up? Right into the mouth of a man sitting next to my wife. Can you believe that? So falling flat on the chair, the chair was not the most embarrassing thing. Turns out the guy was really nice about it. He didn't mind that I stuck my finger in his mouth. Anyhow, any questions yet, Michaela, coming up?
Nope, not
No.
yet.
So I'm gonna before I move up onto the project here, I'm gonna continue down my index list of supplies that I've been reading from. It's taken me a long time to read through this, but I think it's great that we have this to go by. But I wanted to we got down to the point. I think I skipped and we're down to scroll gimp. And on this particular job, I want to show you, we are not using double piping. We use a lot, even on the older furniture these days. But this client wanted the more of a traditional look. So I wanted to make a point about it's called gimp, G-I-M-P. Some people call it braiding. Some people call it French gimp. There's French gimp, which is a little different than what I'm about to show you. But let me show you. This is the fabric that's going on here. And I think I mentioned in one of the other questions and answers that you can never forget about getting an exact match with the gimp. If you're lucky, you're 2-3 shades off. I find it's usually like 3 or 4 shades off that you want. I think this one is. This is the best possible match I could get for this. When you think about it, fabric colors, you have thousands of fabric colors, but in the gimp chart, I think there's probably, about 30 or 40 colors. So there you go. is the closest. I don't think it's too bad. That's what I'm going to use on this chair. Put this down. All right, let's get to that index. Okay, so as I'm scrolling down, I just went to the S, the scroll, gimp, pins. You know, I use an assortment of pins. I use upholstery pins, which are about 4 inches long, and they have that little round head on them. That's used sometimes in areas like this to hold this down. You know, the edge roll and things like that in fabric. And then I use common pins. I use T-pins. That's about it on pins. Plastic bags. You know, this is interesting. You wouldn't think that there's much to this, but we get bags, clean, fresh plastic bags in chair sizes and sofa sizes. And I can tell you that delivering a piece of furniture without plastic around it is a very bad idea, even on the brightest of days. Anything can happen. I've had grease fall off trucks, the inside of the truck. When I had the plastic on, I've had birds flying overhead and do their thing while I had the plastic on a beautiful pink velvet sofa. Things like that. Anything can happen. So presentation. You just finish a job. You put all that work in. The client paid some money. Beautiful fabric. If you do not present yourself well, that means you take the cushions and you wrap them individually. Then you wrap the body of the sofa or chair individually, and then you deliver it with a clean, fresh look. Some people I know in the business, I've heard of people actually delivering in white gloves. I wouldn't suggest to do that because you have no grip on the furniture, but it does look good. I'd say it's just a way of saying I care about finishing the job, which means when it's in place and the cushion, you take the plastic off and then you put the cushions in. That's the finished product, not when you finish it at the shop. You know, the finished product is when it's in the house and the customer's happy with it. At that point, that's the finished project. So you wouldn't think plastic bags are important, but they are truly important. I would use them. So don't forget, please, the whole reason we do the question and answer is for you guys to ask questions about upholstery, especially if you signed up for the online classes. We've got some really interesting, by the way, speaking of the online classes, coming up is Michelle, and she's doing, is that next Monday or coming up, one of the Mondays coming up? Keep watching the website, Broadway Upholstery. Keep watching for that. She's done a beautiful job in a tub chair. Michelle finished it, and she picked it up the other day, actually. Quite happy with this. That was a 10-week class, though. She takes it right from the beginning, stripping it all the way to the cushion. Michelle sewed her own cushion here, so I think you're going to be really excited. And if you go on the website, you'll see now we've got each class categorized with what we're doing in each class. So here's how strong I feel about the online classes. That if you look through the site and you see something that you need help with, I think it's worth the price of the whole class just to get that one video in that class, that one segment, I mean. I think it's really important the way we've categorized it. I mean, it could save you a lot of time and money if there's something in these classes. And the more we produce, the more likely are that you're going to be able to find something that you might be stuck on and that you need a little bit more advice than the YouTube channel can provide. And we have our first question.
Yes, this is from James.
That's Jimmy.
Oh, really?
Hey, Jimmy. We know a couple of Jimmys. We know there's a Jimmy. He was taking a class. He's the Boston guy. And what would you like to know, Jimmy?
He says, the question is, what is your approach when removing fabric from a chair like the one next to you? Different tools?
That's a good question. I use a tack remover, so it depends on if it's tacks or staples. I've used a combination of tools sometimes, but on this one here I used a mallet. Actually, I can show you what I use. I've got it right here because I've been working on this. I use a wooden mallet and my tack remover. That's all I needed for this job, and it removed there were gimp tacks in this and regular 6-ounce tacks. This was a mess, by the way. This was stuffed with hay, and the hay was all disintegrated, so it's no good. I have to start from scratch on this. Now, Jimmy was doing a chair, which I think is that posted. I'm not sure if that one's posted, but we thought we had horsehair, but it was actually coconut fiber. So was that show? Is that show airing now?
We're filming right now.
That's coming up, but Michelle's show's next coming up, right, Patrick?
Right.
And Jimmy's show with the coconut fiber.
Yeah.
So that led us to a lot of interesting discussion with Jimmy, because he got it confused with what did he get that confused with? Horsehair and coconut fiber.
Coconut hair.
I think he said coconut hair, which would be an unusual item on a coconut, but that's okay. It's easy to make that mistake because it looks so much like horsehair. And coconut fiber and horsehair look alike. Anyhow, does Jimmy have any other questions?
No, not right now.
Actually, I mentioned earlier, Jimmy is going to be invited to sit down with me and talk to me about his experience in upholstery, to see if he has anything unusual, to some interesting stories. I'm sure Jimmy does, because Jimmy and I are from we're old enough to be from that childhood area called free range children. And it wasn't that our parents didn't love us. I think they loved us much more than maybe some other parents, but it was that they let us be independent in our play, which you don't find that much involved. Jimmy and I have great fun talking about those early childhood memories. We didn't grow up together, but we're about the same age. And we're going to be talking a lot about that. I recently told Jimmy that I was the kid in the neighborhood that kicked the can all summer long. So I had a can, and I kicked it all summer long. And Jimmy said, "Oh, that sounds boring." And I'm dying to find out what Jimmy's thing was when he was a kid, about 8 or 9, and walking around the streets. We'll be interested to hear Jimmy's side of that. But we're going to try to intermingle it with upholstery, obviously, too. So. And speaking of which, I think I'm going to get going on this baby. My first unless there's any more questions, Michaela. Jimmy fell off the face of the earth there, did he? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it was very kind of Jimmy to get a hold of us since he's on vacation. And very good, Jimmy. If you have another question, don't hesitate to ask. And by the way, if you're walking on the beach and you find a love seat, I have a place for that, definitely. And if you look at the blog, you'll see that story. That's the exact story that's on the blog. Anyhow, so what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is try to secure this. I'm not even going to use pins. I'm going to put a series of slip knots on this first to hold this in place, to get it in position. Okay. So what I'm going to do with the nylon tufting twine, which, by the way, if you get that kit, you're going to get all these supplies. And you have an overabundance of some things. So it's actually a good startup project, a startup upholstery shop in that box. It's going to give you a lot of extra stuff. So what I'm going to do is take a piece about 36 inches or a yard long. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut 3 of them. It's 1, 2. Oh, and we heard back from... Actually, I think I have a couple of more questions in here. This is really exciting, actually, before I get going on this. We heard back from Janine. I'm not sure if she has it in here. If Patrick gave me that or not. Let me just see. Oh, I have to catch up on some of these questions. Patrick, we have a couple of pages here. I just went to the first page. Let's do that first, because I don't want to forget. This is important. Another question from Omnipotent Mama. Kevin, I had a question you can answer here or in the next live, which is, here we are. What is the fabric that you use for the decking? The gray or tan fabric I see where the cushion sits. That actually is a special fabric called a decking fabric. And usually I only get it in the tan. I don't get, there's a lighter weight one that I don't like. I like the heavier linen like one. But if you can self-deck, meaning take the fabric that from the chair and use the same fabric, that's always a good idea. But you have to make sure you have enough fabric to do that. Good question. Then we have another question from Lois. Good afternoon. Okay, just found your company and you have some great videos. Thank you. However, this one wasn't done properly because the demonstration from the bottom of the project wasn't visible. I appreciate that comment. I remember this video. It was one of the first ones we did, and we were just such newbies at it. And I'm considering, actually, and I want your feedback, everybody, on this, about removing a video that I don't like, but from one of the beginning ones. And I'm just wondering how you guys feel about that. I'm hesitant. I don't really know which way to turn, but when I get a comment, what I don't want to do is mislead people and give them poor information and get them frustrated like I talked about before. But I like to see, on the other hand, do people like to see how a YouTube channel evolves, how I think we've gotten much better. We've got better equipment we've invested in, and I think that our skill level is increasing with the camera work all the time. So I like to see the videos from that standpoint. Do you? I mean, do you like to see that? I'd like your comments on it. Janine commented on something. She says, very interesting. Thanks for showing us this. I'm not sure what that was, but Janine's been a good friend. Oh, and Janine goes on to talk about something that we talked about last week, a question and answer. We have another question live, though. We'll take that.
This is from Lucas. Hi from Belgium. I work with mid-century Danish design, and I would like to know if you have a preference of foam thickness when replacing it in dining chairs, trying to keep it as close to original.
Yeah, I'm not sure what type of Danish. We had a Hans Wagner in here, an ottoman. You can check that out on the channel. And that was an ottoman. It had very little filling in it. And I think that's true with almost all of mid-century furniture, is that your lines are very thin on it, including the wood lines. So I would be very careful. Here's how subtle it is. I don't know if you're familiar with the Womb chair, W-O-M-B. I'll spell it because my Boston accent sounds like room, I know that. Womb chair. The older ones were done in a very thin latex. The newer ones are done in a polyurethane, same thickness, but guess what? I can tell a new Womb chair from an old chair just because of that it looks a little bit more ballooned. I don't know how to explain that, but I can tell. My eye picks it up. Because I have a very discriminating and a very fine eye when it comes to these things. But getting back to your point, yeah, it depends on, I'm not sure what type of chair that you have, but I find that on the Danish chairs, they're a very thin half-inch, no more than a 1-inch piece of foam, and like a half a layer of cotton, if any. They didn't use any cotton, by the way. They didn't use no batting. They would use the foam and they would go over it with the fabric oftentimes. So the scale is very important on those, and they are challenging pieces. I have a couple in here now, a couple of mid-century pieces in here now, and we delivered one yesterday that's being shipped to California. People love these, and they're more family heirlooms. And by the way, mid-century furniture retains its value more today than any other pieces of furniture, so it's actually a good investment too. So do we have any other questions before I go on, Michaela?
Lucas is following up with, he says, Hans Olsen from Rollet Dining Chairs.
Pretty sure that this is the same Lucas from Belgium, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, from Belgium. That definitely is the seat, I would say, is a, but this could be an example too of a custom video. It sounds though to me like Lucas is a little bit more advanced and that a custom video might not be for him, but this could be an example for somebody else if they have questions like this. It's really important, especially on expensive furniture like this. but it sounds to me like you don't want to overdo it. No 2-inch foam even on this. I think you should research it, go online to see. Try to maybe, I don't know if you stripped the chairs and you knew what was in there. Sometimes that doesn't help because it's a powder in there. It's the latex that's turned to powder. You don't know. So just do your research. That's what I would say. So I wanted to get to this from Janine because we had brought up the fact that there's such things as extreme ironing in Australia, we thought. So Janine, being from Australia, she does say, and thanks for commenting on this. She says extreme ironing does happen here in Australia as well as worldwide. It happens underwater, in the ocean, as well as on mountainsides and on canoes, etc. The idea is to be the most remote extreme. The idea is to be in the most extreme remote areas and performing the job as well as you can. It kind of faded out there. I don't get the rest of that, but she confirmed that there is extreme ironing. I don't think there's going to be extreme upholstering. Although I will tell you a story about something that happened to me. And beware for all you upholsterers out there if this ever happens to you. I got a call from Boston Harbor, a yacht, a very famous person who pulled in dock, and she wanted her sofa upholstered. So I'm glad to oblige. I gave her an estimate, and we picked the fabric. And I said, I'll be here to pick it up in 2 weeks. I came to pick it up, and I couldn't get the sofa out of the boat. And, I mean, it was nowhere near going to be able to fit out of that little doorway that they have. And she said, don't you know that they build the boat around the furniture? So in other words, they got the hull made and they put everything in, and then they build it around it. So there's no way you're going to get it. So I actually ended up upholstering that sofa on Boston Harbor, and let me tell you, I was seasick, and I don't even know. It was a striped fabric, multicolored striped fabric with my luck. So that's the closest I've come to extreme upholstering. I'm not going to be jumping out of an airplane and trying to upholster a wing chair on my way down. So I don't think that would be a good result anyhow. So Janine, I would suggest, Janine, you stay away from that type of behavior. So let's see. Rocky Smith from last week says, great video today, different and interesting. Thank you. We are going to try to, and I want your feedback on this. Like I mentioned, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more interesting. Some of the ideas we have for the online classes are going to be, we're going to go around on trash day maybe and try to find something interesting on the trash, try to rescue it, try to bring it in. Our adventures, we're going to try to be outside of the shop a little bit more. Try to show you more of the full scale of what an upholstery shop, what we have to do, like maybe to deliver the piece of furniture, things like that. So let us know how you feel about that. So we just don't want to be in studio. We want to be out in the world, like maybe when this big sofa, this antique sofa, if I'm going to attempt to take it out of the house, maybe the cameras can be there to witness what happens, So we hope that has a happy result. Somebody, Janine also said, thank you for clarifying my question regarding changing webbing to webbing and springs on dining room chairs. I thought springs must be better. Now that I've heard your response, it makes total sense. You saved me a lot of time and money. So yeah, I think for those that didn't know, the question was about, she had dining room chairs that she wanted to put springs into, which is never a good idea. In my opinion, dining room chairs should be, you need to be sitting straight up to digest your food. Anytime you introduce a spring or a soft seat on a dining room chair, you're slouching, which isn't a good idea. I actually, I had a set that was sprung, and what I do in a case like that, when a customer's not sure, because removing springs goes against my, coil springs especially, goes against my whole fiber being, because I like them so much, but not on dining room chairs. So I went out to this house, and what I did was I had my tape measure, and I measured from the floor to the top of the shoulders while they were sitting down. And I realized that they were 2 to 3 inches lower than they should have been in relation to the table. So I said, what's going to happen, I'm going to take these chairs, we're going to restructure them, reupholster them, we're going to put webbing on them, firm them up. I actually got them 2 inches. Their shoulders were, their whole body was elevated 2 inches, which made a huge difference on the table. So it depends on where the seating is. Now, that said, sometimes I've seen dining room chairs sets broken up into 2s, into 4s, into 2s, even into 1s where they use them as side chairs. Different seating. So that's better. You know, you can certainly put springs in something like that. But that was a really interesting question, Janine. I'm glad I saved you some time and money. Somebody, Janine said, I always love your videos, great tips. I love positive feedback, but I can take the negative stuff as long as it's within reason. So fine. Anything that I can improve on, you know, please let me know. Somebody said I talk too much in the videos, and I think my answer to that was just put it on mute, right? Some people are more visual learners anyhow, and I understand that. I think the verbalage though is for people. Sometimes it's for really new people, and to kind of guide them along and to give them a sense of security that they can do this, you know. So, and then I have something in Russian, and I can't read Russian, so we'll put that aside. Okay, but before I get up, I'm going to ask if there's any more questions. You guys, Jimmy, are you still watching? Are you out on the beach down there, wherever you are, Jimmy? Some guys get all the luck. He's in a tropical environment, and today we woke up this morning here in Boston. It was below freezing for sure, and it was a shock to the system. And Jimmy's out there with his trunks on and swim trunks, and wow, I envy him. Excuse me. So I have my 3 pieces. Let's get back over to here. I have my 3 yard-long pieces of twine. Try to do this without getting in front here of the camera. Let's take one at a time. So we're going to thread this with our diamond-pointed 4-inch curved needle, like so. And I'm going to give it. I'm not going to even this up like so. I'm going to give it about 10 inches, or the small side, about 10 inches off the needle. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you this because it's the last time I can show you this. I'm going to go through here to the back flange, and I'm going to go through underneath the wire edge and come out here, and then I'm going to try to get a slip knot in there, and I'll show you. Now, we're getting so many, we've done so many videos, it's great now because I can tell you, I don't actually have to show you the slip knot right now, I'm just going to do it. But we do have a video, at least 1, maybe 2. On the online classes, we have them 2. But we have specific videos now. We're nearing 200 videos, which is, I think is phenomenal. And one definitely will show you slow down. You guys can play it back as much as you want to learn that slip knot. That's a very important knot to learn. It can save your life. And it did save my life, and I'll tell you how it did. Anyhow, let me just put this. So how did a slip knot save my life? Well, I was camping up in Canada, and we got caught out in the rain out in the middle of the lake, and we got very wet, and it was cold, and everything got wet. All our gear got wet, everything. The tents, the sleeping bags, everything. And so up in this part of Canada, it was very remote. There was no calling for help. We pulled into a campsite that was waterlogged, puddles everywhere, and not a branch, a twig to start a fire to be found. And the guys with me, we were all pretty, desperate. We needed a fire. We needed to get warm. So what happened was we had some rope, and I knew my slip knot. So there were trees, there were pine trees, and it had been camped out all the way, probably about 50 to 75 feet up in these pine trees, camped out, meaning all the branches were stripped and everything on the ground was taken. Except way up there was some dead branches, a lot of dead branches that nobody could reach, or they thought they couldn't reach. Except with me, what I did was I lassoed I got a stick, nice heavy stick, lassoed it around, and I threw it up over the dead branches. And then that wouldn't have been enough to yank these. I needed the other side. So I did a slip knot and tore down all the dead wood, and we had fire. Saved the day. So anyhow, the slip knot saved the day. Who would have thought an upholsterer, right? In the middle of the wilds. Anyhow, so I'm going to do a slip knot here. You know, I have a million stories. I just hope we don't bore you to death with them. Remember the live shows. If you want me to stop talking, just ask a question. And we have a question. Yes, Mikhail.
This is from Monique. Hi from the Netherlands.
Oh, hi.
My Chesterfield project is not going to happen. The owner brought them to the dump. But she had 2 Dante chairs. I believe they are from the mid-20th century or earlier. The seat frame is a half moon shape with springs, so not flat. Do you have any tips on what to look out for when reupholstering the chairs?
Try to keep as much of the original that you can. And if you have a pair of chairs, it would be good to take one apart at a time, just to be sure. I'm not sure what your skill level is, but you can replicate most materials with something reasonable. You don't want to replicate latex. I do not use latex or memory foam or anything like that anymore. Latex, because I don't trust it. I've seen too much of it disintegrate. Memory foam seems like a great idea, but it isn't. I'll tell you the problem with memory foam is it puts too much stress on the fabric. It has too much of a recoil, right? And that puts too much fabric stress. I don't use that. Best thing to use when you're replacing materials would be I like ultra foam, it's called, mid density, medium. So that's what I almost exclusively use unless somebody really needs a firm cushion for some reason. Some of our customers have hip problems and things like that where they need to be ultra firm, and I certainly can do that. I don't usually go the other way with soft cushions, like an all-down cushion. I wouldn't suggest. As far as your Chesterfields, I know why that's so labor intensive, those Chesterfields. And honestly, I love the way they look, but never do a Chesterfield. If you did have a Chesterfield sofa, if you're doing them out there, try to convince the client to do an upholstered seat and have the tucking everywhere else, not on the seat. Because I can guarantee you that even the original Chesterfield, where they made them, those buttons would be popping in no time at all on the seats. It's just too much tension on a tufted seat with the button. The button's always going up and down like this, and it wears out this twine. You can actually wear out nylon twine if you can believe it. So I hope that answered your question from the Netherlands. Wow. We're getting Belgium, the Netherlands, and everywhere else today. So I'm just going to knot this off. Got it nice and tight. I'm going to cut the twine back about an inch away from the knot. Yes, it's been a very exciting day today here at Upholstery on Broadway. Just going to get another one at the end here, another slip knot, just to hold it in place. Oh, by the way, we're really excited about the fact that after these question and answers, we put them up on the YouTube. They actually go up automatically after they're live. But we're really amazed at how many people are watching these after the fact. So we appreciate that. And I want to stress now, while I have you guys' attention, please subscribe and please put on your notification, because you'll know when we do a live show. We're not 100% solid yet on the times. We did throw out a poll there. And what was the poll? What was the indication on the poll, Patrick, about a good time for question and answer?
A lot of people like Thursday.
A lot of people like Thursdays. Thursday's a little tough for us around here, but we'll try to accommodate. But right now we're kind of floating around with time, so if you turn on your notifications, you'll know when we're live. But we found out, we discovered, I think I mentioned this last question and answer, that there are 10 times more people watching that haven't done either one of those things. Either they haven't subscribed or turned on their notifications, which really, the two right now are driving the online classes and the YouTube. They're interlocked. You know, we rely on both of these things. So please tell your friends, even if they don't like upholstery, subscribe. You know, but you don't have to listen to me, so I can do more of this. And let me just get this on. I want to hear more from people who, I'm very interested in people who want to start their own businesses, who are wondering about that. I have some great ideas. One of them is this kit. If you really learn well in the kit, I mentioned this before, if you really get good at it, you can become that instructor with these kits. I mean, you can instruct at your local adult, in this country, I'm not sure about the Netherlands and Belgium and Saudi Arabia and Ireland and England, where we all have customers in those areas. But I do know in this country, it's almost, I think it's mandated that they have adult ed at night, and there's money for adult ed, and they pay they pay you to teach. You can teach almost anything as long as you have a following, as long as there are people that sign up. And I have to tell you, the upholstery classes are extremely, extremely popular. And if you get good at that kit, you can offer this as a class and get paid as an instructor. And I think you'll have fun, you'll meet friends, and if you are in the position, or if you're thinking about opening up a shop, if you've been a hobbyist for a couple of years, this is the thing to do. You become, in your area, you become the expert upholsterer that can teach. People really respond to that. I mean, usually a client process of thinking when they're choosing an upholsterer. So this guy over here, he just has a shop. This guy over here has a shop and a school. This guy over here has a shop, and he teaches people and apprentices in a shop, and he has an online class, and he has an upholstery school. Wow. That really gets their attention. But start off small. Start off with a small, friends, a couple of friends, and teach them. And once you get that, you'll see. But I want your feedback. I want to know how many people out there are actually in that position where they're thinking about, they've been doing this for a while, and they might want to do it for a living. So I got this. I got this. I'm going to cut this. By the way, I'm right about a little overhang on our edge. Okay, that's where I want to be. I'm going to put one more in. This is nowhere near what actually has to be put in. Oh, I did have another one cut. I don't know where it went. Just going to string this. Slip knots in, and when I say slip knots, it's a slip knot only until you get it to this point, and then you tie it off. Then it becomes a very tight knot, and it's not going to go anywhere, at least for now. So I'm gonna tie this off, and I'm gonna cut that. Wow, we've been moving along here. I didn't realize how much time went by. Now I'm gonna do the first of the series blanket stitches. Okay, blanket stitches. I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to put one, when I have a small area like this, you can take 2.5 times to 3 times width, which is going to be enough to make your blanket stitch. Cut that. Okay, I'm going to go over the whole edge roll. Come out down here. I'm going to perform another slip knot at the end here. I want this to be tight. I don't want it to move anywhere. I'm gonna go through the opening. See that? Through the opening. I'm actually purposely going through the opening. Watch this. Watch how tight this gets this. I'm gonna go this way and this way. That's the motion. And you tighten. Now watch what happens. It will loosen up a little bit, but you'll make up for the next one. Watch. After the next one, you'll eventually catch up. Watch. See that? Come over the top. About spacing about every 2 inches. Why am I putting this on? Two reasons. For comfort, look down at the knees, hit this instead of the wire, and building it up. So when you came in today and looked at this and said, wow, that's a low chair. You know, they saw without any padding on it. So I'll wait till you put the padding on it. It's gonna come up to like about here. This had like a blanket, like a thick, probably like a 3-inch piece of hay. Almost like that, plus, and then cotton over that, and then more cotton, like 2 or 3 cotton that. Finish up this first blanket stitch. See if we can get this done before we go off the air today. Any more questions? If I don't get any questions, I might finish it. Did I cover everything, Patrick, that we were talking about? Anything else that you can think of that you should talk about? We're very excited about this new, about the website, about Broadway Upholstery School online classes, because we're gonna keep on adding stuff to that. The blog has taken off. We've got, that Napoleon chair has gotten a lot of response. I'm gonna tie this off, just like so. Let's make sure we get a knot in there. There we go. Now I'm gonna get another blanket stitch in the back. It's not a back stitch does absolutely nothing for you in this case. It doesn't tighten this up at all. So it's a slip knot to hold it in place, 1 blanket stitch, and then 2 blanket stitch back here, and maybe a 3rd blanket stitch. But I'm not sure. That's a lot of stitching, but you really do need to make sure that stays put against that wire edge. Sometimes if newer manufacturers are daring enough and they do a wire edge, which I've seen them do, they never secure this strong enough. I've seen it after 10 or 12 years. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a sofa or a chair where the front end is bulged out. It's because this has turned, they usually use hog clips to tie this. So never use clips when you're doing upholstery, by the way, never. Clips always fail at some point. Stitching, hardly ever. So what they do is they have a nylon edge roll, and they have their little clips, and they clip them on about every 3 or 4 inches, and that's it. I mean, look what I'm doing. I'm going to have a series of 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 series of stitching to hold it on. So it takes time, but you know it's worth it. So
We've got 10 more minutes left.
all right, let me just get another one. I'm going to measure out 3 times. I'm not sure if Janine is watching live. She usually, I think, what time is it in Australia right now, Patrick?
Oh, I can look it up.
Come on, you should know. I think it's a 12-hour difference?
It's 7 in the morning.
7 in the morning. Janine, wake up and talk to us. And she's been a good friend right from the beginning. I think Janine was one of the first people to watch. I mean, we've had our YouTube for about 5 or 6 years now, Patrick?
No, 10.
10 years. So some of those older videos, though, we were really winging it. So forgive me if some of you watch those and they don't have the same quality these have for sure. So I'm gonna get this started with the slip knot. Which video did I like the most? Which video did I like the most? Let's see. I like that theater chair that we did. That was fun. That was fun. Do you have a favorite, you guys? Anyhow. Our studio audience is not here today, which was Jimmy, one of them. He kind of livens things up every once in a while. That's what we're hoping he does next week.
Where you fell down the steps and the cushions fell all over you?
Well, yeah, I fell down the steps and the cushions fell over, and I think I said something like, "I've fallen and I can't get up." Oh, that's original, right, you guys?
Or the one we just did where the bench exploded. That's probably
Yeah, that was fun, Patrick. I'm glad it wasn't a real explosion. Jimmy got a big laugh out of that one. So we're nearing the end, and so if anybody has a question now, and if you're watching this after the live show, just like you have been doing, you guys have been great and commenting and asking questions after the fact. We'll catch up to you next week. But I'm almost done with my second blanket stitch, and I'm just going to check this to see how tight it is. Try this off. And I'm done. Just gonna see how tight that is. That's pretty good. So that'll do it. Thank you for all you guys who've asked questions, and thanks for all those comments. Keep them coming, please. And for all you who are watching this after the fact, after the live broadcast, thank you for doing that too, because that adds to the channel. Also, for all you people who are following up watching this, it's not live, please subscribe and get those notifications. So see you next time. Thanks a lot.